everybody to round 8 of the Trackstars TS2 Championship. We are live from Sainte-Croix, sea, all the way over in France. They got a bit of their own little enduro this weekend. They've got a 250 k race. It's going to be one compulsory pit stop for tyres. They can add fuel if they need to. Yeah, and we're going to wait and see on how it's going to play out, because we know we've seen a couple of drivers exceed with enduros and stuff like that. But as always, join with me in the combox. I have Spud next to me. He's next to me this week, unlike last week. He left me all alone as well in TS2, but he was in the comment section, so that was nice of him to join in spirit. So yeah, welcome for this long 250k race, my friend.
Yeah, definitely going to be a long 250 kilometer race, this one. So just like Bathurst, these guys are going through a pre-enduro style race for the enduro season that we have in Trackstars Racing Series 2022. So our TS2 drivers, that we'll see most of them, or at least not even half of the drivers, will be actually seeing on the main series grid tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, the live coverage starts at 9 AM Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Yes, you heard me, 9 AM. So it's a very early start for our boys here at Trackstars to get ourselves underway for the main series of the Sainte-Croix 1500. So the last of the 3 enduros. So we've got the car 95 in Mint, Matt and DJ, yourself in the going 2 for 2 at the end of Bathurst, but can you guys go 3 for 3? We shall wait and see as the evening progresses tomorrow night. But for now, we do have our TS2 drivers on the field. 10 minutes of qualifying, 1 qualifying session, and it's going to shape up to be a great race this evening.
Yeah, obviously Matt put it on provisional poll. We will have the shootout tonight, and he'll be in the car for that. But I know he wasn't feeling well yesterday, but he apparently he's woken up today and he's feeling good. So he's done a couple of shootout test runs, and he's definitely feeling like he's got the car tuned pretty well. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But you know, it's only a 1 lap dash shootout for a long 1500k race. So really, it's anyone's chance or anyone's guess. But I think it may play out differently as well, because they've actually changed the damage model in the last update. So it's not as easy to get engine damage anymore. So I think really that may play out in the hands of, say, whoever's kind of leading at the time. You know, it might not be a five lap sprint like it was at Bathurst and high speed ring. So obviously yourself, you were taking it to Matt. You know, Matt, it wasn't an easy win at either of the circuits, I tell you that much. So as much as people are saying, you know, we've been on top, we've been fast, it's just Matt, you know, you took it to Matt, and Matt did a massive send on the last lap to you around the corner, around turn 3. So he said to me, he just goes, I just sent it. He goes, I had no chance, I had no idea if the tyres were going to stick or not. He goes, but I just had to go for it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have made the pass. So yeah, he did a proper send on you, and you know, it was good racing, and he definitely appreciated that, as well as Bathurst. You know, it wasn't easy. They weren't easy wins at all. So it's, you know, it's good racing at the moment, which is good to see.
Absolutely, and I'm waiting to read all the comments coming from a few of the boys if they're watching the stream later on this evening, just to hear about your comments. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. But it has been a really good pleasure racing with Matt, especially at high speed ring. That last lap was just probably one of the most intense last laps I've actually ever done in the Trackstars Touring Cars Championships. Just taking it to the 2015 GT Academy winner in Mint Matt on that final lap, and yeah, I just got it. He just sent it, and I had no response at all. So good on him, and good for the It's Racing, It's Esports Car 95 to take out not just high speed ring, but also the Bathurst 1000. So yeah, It's Racing have the upper hand on the enduros so far, actually winning, I believe. I have a feel like they're winning 4. No, hang on, it's the 3rd enduro they've actually won. So they actually won. You guys, they won Kyoto, the Kyoto 500.
Not me. Oh well, yeah, I wasn't part of ITS back then. I was part of PLE.
No,
so we, ITS has won. So yeah, they won 4 out of.
It's Racing 6. Esports has won. Yeah, they've won 3, and CP Motorsports have won 2 So it's all up to this one. So will It's Racing Esports get 4, or will we see CP Motorsports get 3, or can we see someone brand new take it to those two big heavyweights in Trackstars touring cars? We'll wait and see tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. But qualifying is just about to start wrapping up its session. We've only just got ourselves just under 5 minutes to go for this qualifying session. We have Lunacy setting his fastest lap with Kaizen, who is the brand new debutant here in TS2 Touring Cars. I just snapped him up for Mesh Buds Racing, and he's been showing some great great speeds and practice sessions. He's doing really well, and through other league series as well. Just his pace has been really good, and I can't wait to see what he can do to take it to these guys up the front. Aussie Hypnotic in third, setting his lap, and then we had the few drivers coming through TS2 pre-qualifying. Isa Benjo came from pre-qualifying as well. Not the fastest in pre-qualifying, but he'll be looking to make sure he make amends and maybe put one up on his teammate in Devlin in 6th place.
Yeah,
and it's actually an interesting fact with Devlin. I'm not so sure if our viewers actually know about Devlin, that his part of his left-hand side of his body is actually paralyzed. So he had a special made Logitech wheel and rig setup to cater for his disability. And it's actually interesting enough, DJ, from what I heard last night was from a driver, is that he actually has to zip his arm, like a little sleeve. He puts his arm through a little sleeve and he has to zip it up, and that's how he holds his sort of movement in his arm.
I did hear the story, because obviously he's been in chat there and stuff like that, and yeah, he's paralyzed down the left hand side, and they customized from Logitech. He actually contacted Logitech themselves and they custom made one for him. But yeah, I was always curious on how he actually worked it, being paralyzed down his left side, essentially being one-handed as such. Granted that there's paddles on either side of the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So he must have some sort of configuration for gear shifting as well, because it doesn't look like he's using the automatic gears, as you can see as he's revving the car out. But yeah, I mean, I just found that out yesterday, so that was very interesting. Like, just to hear, like, they actually have to zip him up to actually hold, to get any feel in the steering wheel, and that's why he always says to us in the pre-chat, don't hit him, because if you hit him, he'll just fly off his racing seat.
I think that we actually dislocated his shoulder at Spa. If I remember correctly, I think someone like massively hit him and it actually dislocated his shoulder, and he had to get his shoulder put back in or something like that. But yeah, so that obviously that kind of puts 2 and 2 together. But yeah, at the moment, he does well for considering his situation. So I don't think he likes this track so much, because he's a little bit off the pace in TS2 and main series. But so yeah, so far they're setting some not too bad times. But surprise here, I don't know if it actually would it be a surprise, seeing Captain Muffin sitting there in number 1.
The Captain Muffin, the man that's going to be qualifying car 50 for the top 6 shootout later on this evening. But I'm actually quite surprised, DJ. The Hondas are actually really competitive around this track, despite it being the heavier car on the track. So I would think John wouldn't be too far off. He's only a 10th down behind Captain Muffin. So Captain Muffin must have put a really good section, especially through the windy sections at the back end of the track.
I think the benefits that the Honda has is that it's the MR, and it really excels through that last sector. Like, if you get that last sector right in the Honda, he runs a little bit wide there, it definitely feels really nice. I think the top end down the back straight is where the Honda will see it definitely is its weakness, for sure, because the Lexus and Nissan have a lot better top speed. Which I think essentially, in main series we're having to try and conquer that, because the Lexuses and the Nissans with the top speed is just incredible. And yeah, we're just trying to match that. Obviously, being 29 kilos heavier. It's definitely making our life a bit hard with the whole balance of performance. But yeah, so far he's set himself a 308.2. John's in P2 with a 308.2, 3:99, I believe that's what that would be.
Yeah, he was a 10th down on Captain Muffin, so these guys are just getting their last laps in. Lunacy looks like he's just going to be able to cross the line and do one more lap, so this is a very crucial lap for Lunacy as we see the checkered flag approaching us very shortly. But Lunacy is the first man to cross the line, and he will get that one lap in, so keep an eye on what Lunacy can do. If he can take out pole position, he's just behind John 27 TCT in third place. Slapper's mate Aussie Hypnotic rounding up the top 5 with Kaizen, the debutant, in the top 5, as we see It's Racing actually climb up through the field there. He's in P3, well that'll be P4 when John jumps back on the track, but P3 for It's Racing, and he did cross the finish line, so he's got one more lap. So he did cross the start finish line. He does have one more lap. I did confirm that. And I'm just getting, I am getting confirmation on the headset that that 95 was the last car to cross the start finish line. So whether he knows about it, we're not too sure. We'll wait and see. But Slapper's mate definitely has crossed the finish line as the checker flag has been waved. He will remain in 5th place as we see the rest of the grid, as the rest of the group come through. Budsy 76 looks like he's improved up a couple of positions into P6. So beautiful job there from Budsy and some of the MSR boys in Ruckworth rounding up the top 10. So yeah, a bit of a mixed field you can see, because not many drivers are going to get their best laps in the first laps, but you never know. Like as we saw with some drivers, you can only get one lap. You might not have the chance to do 2 laps. So the one lap is where it counts the most, whether it's a fast lap or whether it's a banker lap.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's a bit hard here. Obviously Devlin was 2 tenths up there, so that's a bit unfortunate, but he was the first car to cop the checkered flag, which is a bit unfortunate, but you know, it kind of is what it is. But Robbo here actually has engine damage and he's got 3 minutes 46, but I'm getting some news that he did get impeded by Benjo, so I think maybe that might be a reason why
Robbo's down the order.
He's down the order, so yeah, that's bit of a hard one there.
Yeah, a little bit unlucky, but I guess for John, staying in the pit lane obviously helped him out to, looks like he did maintain P2 as he's just exiting the track right now. And yeah, like we say, we have 14 drivers here, DJ. We have 1 safety car driver, none other than the 2021 Touring Car Championship champion, Diswood 1, and the 2022 Formula Track Stars champion as well. So striking a very interesting and very unique livery, you could say.
I think he's going for the real police look from England with this thing. It's definitely standout-ish. That's very sure about that one. But
it is quite a funny livery. But look, we got to keep our eyes on Lunacy. He's in the 3-minute 1s and 2s, but can he get himself up towards the finish line? Can he get pole position on the lap?
There it is.
It does. So there we go. Lunacy on the final lap there sets himself a brilliant lap time to take out provisional pole position. But what about It's Racing? He's one of the last drivers. He's the last driver that crossed the start finish line, and we've got Aussie Hypnotic as well coming through the start finish line. Budsy as well has come through. Oh, sorry, Kaizen's come through to the start finish line. He doesn't improve. Aussie does. And It's Racing improves his lap time, but doesn't improve his position. So what a lap there, a crucial lap there by Lunacy, DJ. And he's done it again. I think that's the second time he's taken pole position on the last lap as well.
Yeah, I know he has done that before, and I don't know how I'd be if I was Captain Muffin, but I think John's a little bit out of shape here. That he's not liking that there's a Lexus and a Honda in front of him. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. This is the first race as well of the TS2 drivers having the safety car too. So
yeah,
it's gonna be a very interesting one. So we'll definitely wait and see what happens with this one. So until then, we shall go green flag for this one if it works. Yes, it works. So it's going to be a 23 lap race around this lovely 10 point something 11k circuit. It's very long with a lot of corners. I don't even want to count it because it's just a very long lap.
Yeah, touche. Fair enough. I'll give you that. But yeah, so the man that steals pole position yet again, Lunacy for Project One Racing Team, takes out pole position for the one and only race here for the Sainte-Croix 250. Safety cars are involved in this race here. So 14 drivers, one safety car, heavy damage. Can Lunacy get his Lexus off the line against Captain Muffin 88 as we see those 5 red lights go out, and we are green flag racing. So Lunacy gets himself the jump. Captain Muffin gets a good second phase launch out of his Honda NSX. He's going to go side by side with his teammate, mind you, for the Touring Cars Championship 1500 coming up tomorrow morning. So the two teammates going side by side. We've got It's Racing alongside Slaps Mate 117 and contacts made. I did see Rugworth get a bit of contact with a couple of drivers there. Is there any damage amongst the drivers? No, that is a very fortunate.
Slappers got front and rear aero, so that's very unfortunate there.
Oh, so very unlucky. So if we had the older damage, that would have been a definite safety car call there. So because he's getting contact again. So drivers just making contact.
Bent by Benjo there.
So it looks like there could be a potential safety car. We're not if there's any engine damage. I don't see any engines. I see some damage, but not anything in particular for working with like engines. So
yeah, it's been
interesting there. So, but we've seen some good starts there for Budsy 76. He's actually climbed up at least 4 positions at the start of that race, and even Mad Dog 007, he's gained at least 6 positions at the start of the race. So Mad Dog has actually gone through. He's actually ahead now of It's Racing. He's just made a move on him, and so beautiful starts there by Budsy and Mad Dog to be up in the top 5. So the underdog driver in Mad Dog, the pre-qualifier in the top 5 ahead of It's Racing, and Kaizen TY, the debutant in Trackstars Touring Cars, in 7th place, and Aussie Hypnotic rounding up the top 8 with Rusty Nuts in 9th and his teammate Robbo inside the top 10.
Yeah, I think Robbo got a decent start there. Obviously he did start down in 14th place behind Benjo, but I think he got a bit involved in some of that like head to toe contact there. But yeah, that aero is definitely taken a hit on the cars around here. Obviously, being such a long lap, it's a lot of time loss here. But I'm also getting a bit of inside info that Woodsy can't actually see the car that he's driving, so he's just driving an invisible car.
Oh no! This could be a bit of a problem there. So, but he looks like he's actually driving it. So I thought it was on AI, unfortunately. So he's going to be coming around the track. If he can get the car on the track, Jesus, Woodsy. Whereas with the actions with the safety car, not with the leaders. But we see Captain Muffin taking the lead away from Lunacy with John 27 TCT in 3rd place, Budsy in 4th. It's Racing has taken back 5th place after a mistake by Mad Dog. He's lost 2 positions to It's Racing and Kaizen in the top 6, and with Aussie Hypnotic still in top 8. So the battle resumes amongst the top 3 drivers, Muffin, Lunacy and John. We're about to finish the end of lap 1, and these guys are very close to each other there. Not even a second covers the top 3, DJ. And
yeah.
I will say 3 manufacturers in the top 3 as well. And with Budsy hanging around the background, just like he did at Bathurst, he might be sniffing a bit of an opportunity if one of the front 3 makes a mistake. But he also needs to keep his eye on It's Racing behind.
Yeah, it just bounced over a second there coming through that last sector, because I know that John doesn't really like it, even though he did a 3:53 in qualifying. So yeah, the 3 manufacturers, he's lost a bit of time there to Lunacy, so I think he's just hoping that these guys are going to battle here and he can just close the gap in. Lunacy just jumping out of the dirty air there, trying to get a bit of a better break into turn 3.
Looks like John went a little bit too deep in the brakes there, so as he drifts the car wide, and Budsy closing the gap a little bit to John 27 TCT. So the top 4, actually, you will see in the main race, in the main 1500 race tomorrow. So these guys are getting some really good, valuable laps there in their TS2 Lexus, Honda, and Nissans before they make the jump. But with John actually making the jump to the Honda, and also Lunacy will be making the jump to the Honda as well. So 2 drivers and 2 different cars, so very interesting to see how they adapt. But we know from Lunacy and John's qualifying paces, they've been pretty much solid with those 2 drivers. And Lunacy jumping in for Diswood 1 as a late replacement for Brocky 05. He's done himself out. I think he's definitely exceeded expectations from the rest of the grid.
Yeah, I think he's exceeded expectations, but we know how quick Lunacy is. But I think putting him with Woodsy is kind of a bit of a dangerous thing. So we've probably seen that so far, especially both of them being on controller, where myself and Matt is a little bit different. Granted, he's on a wheel and I'm on a controller, so I'm essentially having to kind of tune my own car. So
yeah, it's just... and that's an interesting point you make, because they are both on controllers, so it's a little bit easier to share setups, to share data. So for those guys, it'd be a little bit easier. And Lunacy's just been showing some really good performances, especially his Bathurst. On his last qualifying lap at Bathurst, he actually managed to put it into the top 3 on a very solid lap there. As we see Mad Dog make a beautiful move on Rusty Nuts to get himself into 8th, and Rusty drops down to 9th. So really a nice start there for Mad Dog. It's being as high up as 5th place, but just settling in for 8th place behind Aussie Hypnotic. But Lunacy is just really reeling in the gap a little bit, so he's trying to take advantage of where the Lexus is strong, and that is the straight line speed with the Lexus, and then the Honda will start to get a little bit more grip, a little bit more tire advantages coming through through the windy section. But for most of this part here, DJ, it is more or less flat, as we see Lunacy, through his data race telemetry, he's actually going flat through the fast right-hander. So Lunacy not really affected with the dirty aero, as he just flips the grass there.
Yeah, as I said, big wings make a big difference. So we get a lot of dirty air with the bigger wings compared to these little wings, but also the turbo. The turbo doesn't make too much difference, but it's just the wing is the main thing. But yeah, he's definitely putting in a solid job here. But I'm pretty sure Muffin's kind of like, alright, well I got Lunacy here, I just kind of got to keep him going, as Muffin does a 307.7 and Lunacy does a 307.8. So they're kind of matching each other for pace at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. You could definitely see the gap between them. It's just nothing. They've just actually pulled away from John, so John's actually losing a bit of time in his Nissan GTRs. He just clipped the barrier there at the end of turn 2, with Budsy holding on in 4th place. It's racing in the top 5, Kaizen in the 6th, Aussie Hypnotic in 7th, and Rusty Nuts does take that position back from Mad Dog in 8th place. As we want to make sure let's try and have a look down the fields, because we did see some drivers get some contact there. So now we see Rugworth coming. So it looks like, did he get any damage at all? So he's just doing his compulsory pit stop.
I think no. I think he's carrying that damage still from lap 1, but he might have been realizing that, you know, I'm losing too much time, so we'll just try and get that pit stop underway. But as well, I don't know what the tire degradation will be like in these ones, because I know that main series is definitely pretty high. So it's definitely, and the other thing as well is that pit exit. So that pit exit is actually on the racing line. So that's going to be something that we need to watch out for tomorrow.
It's very scary as well, because you can't really see when the drivers are coming out, because the usual timing monitor on the leaderboard doesn't really tell you that the driver is exiting the pit lane. You just kind of have to guess where they are. So there's a little bit of hesitations on where you can place your car, especially when a car exits the pit lane, whether to really just move the car out a little bit more towards the left, or you just keep committed and just take that racing line. But it can cause a lot of carnage, and we'll wait and see if there's anything comes avail in the TS2 fields. But we'll wait and see. With Woodsy's hanging around the pit lane, and the top 2 are definitely pulling away from John. So John looks like he's made a bit of a mistake there. He's not finding confidence in his GTR, has he? He's not carrying any damage, but he's actually coming under pressure from Budsy 76 in the 76. So he's doing really well to keep his eye on John 27 and really try and gain experience. He's not known to be one of the faster drivers in TS2, but when he gets his heads down and he finds consistency, he really puts on a good show, and he can really take it to the front, guys. So it'd be good to see where Budsy ends up at the end of this race, but he knows he's got It's Racing behind, who is the current defending Sainte-Croix 250 champion. He actually won that race from EBM Xiaomi from EBM Motorsport, but unfortunately post-race penalties got him with the safety car infringement, and that relegated him down to the back of the fields, and that's where It's Racing managed to win the event throwback round as well for It's Racing in the 95, and the admin of Trackstars Touring Cars, who puts on a great show for us, and obviously bringing us the coverage live to you on YouTube. And we're delighted to see our guys in TS3, TS2 and main series putting on a show, and we just thank him very much for all his time and commitment to giving us what we love, which is racing with great people, as we're about to start lap 4 of 23.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for him now. not racing main series, so he can kind of focus on the background stuff a little bit more. Obviously, he does have the TS2 and stuff like that, and he's got me and you there, but we're still racing and trying to do stuff in the background. But yeah, at the same time, you know, I think he feels better that he's not racing full time. You know, he'll step in when he needs to, but he's just racing TS2. And speaking of being round 8, this is actually his last round in TS2, so he's dropping down to TS3 for the rest of the season, as of next week. So he'll jump down there and give those boys a bit of a run. So I wonder how he's going to go, because I can't remember exactly what car he's going to be in. I think he may be in the Honda. If not, it'll be the Lexus. So I know
it's the Lexus, yeah.
Yeah, so he will be another Lexus on the grid. So we'll have 3 Lexuses on there in the 95. So yeah, he's you know, mucking around, having fun. Obviously, because his sprint cars will start up again soon, because he does do real life racing with sprint cars, but also you know, some background stuff here. So you know, he's having a good run, he's having fun, he's still sitting behind the wheel. It looks like he's a little bit off the pace, but I think that's just, you know, some new drivers coming through, getting faster, stuff like that. As well, I think Budsy too, you know, from where he was last year to where he is now, he's definitely shown a lot of potential.
Yeah, 100%.
In but not only TS2 but main series as well, because he was running up the front of main series and high speed ring for a little bit there. I think he was behind myself for a little bit when I had to come through the pack. So yeah, he's definitely showing. You know, he always congratulates me with all my races too. You know, Budsy's one of probably the most humble guys that I've talked to. You know, he's always like, great race, mate, top job, and unlucky and all that kind of stuff too. So he's definitely an awesome guy to have around. So yeah, he's showing. He's got some real potential there, but he has lost a bit of time here to John. So I think John's just kind of reset himself, and he's going to be on the charge now to Lunacy and Muffin. But I'm surprised that Lunacy actually hasn't gained a bit of time here on Muffin, and as I say that, he just jumps in the slipstream, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like it's just the Honda with the MR specification that it has mid-engine rear-wheel drive. It's very, very good in these very fast windy corners, and the fast corners especially. So where Lunacy loses, Muffin gains, and then vice versa. But like you said, I guess in a way you could say Budsy's your favourite MSR driver, isn't he?
Look, I'm gonna have to go with meat and cheese because of his thumbs.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
My lowest rated MSR driver is Ratty McForehead, just because we got banter, and he knows he's gonna love hearing me put him at the bottom, because I know that he'd be at the bottom of his list. So yeah, I think all the It's Racing drivers will be at the bottom of his list, and I'll be at the very bottom. So you know what, you can go to the very bottom of my list, mate. You know, likewise for you. But yeah, these guys here, just looking at their laps, mate, they're matching each other. They're within a tenth every lap. So
it's such beautiful racing amongst these guys. We see It's Racing actually pulled the plug pretty early. So lap 5 of 23 pulling. Oh, so there you go. So so this could be. Well, I mean, we're seeing the same thing with Rugworth. So Rugworth pitted very early, and it looks like It's Racing it's going to definitely change his tyres. But we'll have to wait and see if he actually does the whole stint, because I'm not too sure what the TS2 cars, like you said, what the tyre wear is like with TS2 specifications. It might be a little bit easier on the tyres, it might be a little bit harder, might be a little bit more stress on the loaded side. But I feel like the loaded side, you don't really get too much loading with the tyres. I feel like it's quite even, because there's a lot of windy circuits. There's maybe, I would have to say, maybe the left-hand side of the car is quite windy, because there's a lot of fast sweepers. If you look at this corner here, like if you look at turn 2, and then you're looking at the end of this back straight, and then the back straight, and then going onto the last couple of corners. So yeah, it looks like the left-hand side will definitely get a bit of a workout on the cars this evening, but maybe not to an extent that it is going to be problematic for our drivers, as we did also get an update on tyre wear as well. So it's actually a little bit softer on the tyre wear, a little bit easier on the tyre wear, but still plays a factor when it comes to strategies.
I think they've softened up the compounds a bit, because the mediums are wearing quite a lot more than what they were, but the tyre update before this, you know, you could run your tyres down to nearly dead and they'd still have the same grip through the whole stint, and then instantly within the next lap you'd just be like 2 or 3 seconds slower, where now you really notice when the tyres kind of start to wear, they start to drop off. So it's definitely
absolutely
interesting, because essentially they've broken the damage model, but then kind of fixed, but not really fixed the tyre model. So I don't know, it's kind of a bit of a catch-22 there.
Yeah, I think so. And plus, with the damage model, it's actually changed it up, so you can't really get yourself, like, obviously with these guys now running with heavy damage, these guys can't really smash the car onto the barrier and, you know, expect engine damage like that often. You could just end up with some front splitter damage, the very least. But even with contact, with a slight touch of the arm code, like we saw at Bathurst, where the walls are just so close to you on the left and the right, it's just, as soon as you clip it, you just get engine damage straight away. But I feel like with this track being a little bit wider compared to Bathurst, a lot wider compared to Bathurst, and even high speed ring, that these guys won't be really getting themselves into a phase where, you know, engine damage can be you know, a problematic thing. But we did see Robert get engine damage at the end of qualifying there, so whether he made a mistake or he got hit off to get a mistake, we just don't know. But Captain Muffin just eking that gap out a little bit more. He's improved his lap time, fastest lap at 3 minutes 7.4. They're still setting some really blistering pace. Is Captain Muff with Lunacy just right behind in second place, still on a 3:07.9, so still putting some solid laps there, but he's just lost a bit of time to his rival in Muffin. And we did see John actually lose a bit of time to Budsy as well. So as I say that, we did pick that up there. He made a huge mistake going into turn 2, and Budsy's going to take the opportunistic move and get the move done on the It's Racing Nissan driver, as Budsy goes for a fastest first sector, and he just clears John before the braking side. So beautiful move there by Budsy. Obviously timed that perfectly with John's mistake, but John's not really having a good time on this set of tyres, DJ.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the tyres or if it's just him. You know, he's been putting a lot of practice in with a Honda, and then you go to the Nissan and it just handles completely different. So I don't know if it's going to be just a him,
very true.
If it's a him problem or a car problem. But I know that we did offer for the drivers to swap to the manufacturers that they were filling in for in main series. So they didn't actually take it. Obviously, you know, Budsy's already in the Lexus, Muffin's already in a Honda. And Rusty's already in Nissan and stuff like that. So they didn't actually, you know, feel like they wanted to move over. They wanted to stay in their TS2 cars. So, you know, they're just going with the flow and seeing how it goes. But yeah, we're getting a bit of radio talk here from Woodsy saying the picnic good in pit lane. He's got butter chicken, mate. Throw some up to us in the combox because I'm getting hungry.
Gotta love the good old Woodsy banter. You know, it always sparks up a bit of banter amongst the boys there. But obviously one honourable mention we have to give is Kaizen, the debutant. Kaizen TY doing himself a really favourable job there, being in the top 5. And usually the ruling is that if you finish in the top 5 of a race, that gives you automatic qualification to be a reserve driver for the main series. So Kaizen's really putting his hand up, especially in my camp in the MSR Mashbart's racing team, to really get himself you know, a potential main series drive maybe next year, or even put him up as a reserve driver for next year. So we'll wait and see what his plans are, but he's looking to put himself in a really good position if he keeps himself ahead of It's Racing, who did make that pit stop only a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, I don't know how that will play out in strategy, because I do know they may need to make more or less 2 stops for the race. So it's going to definitely play out as a very interesting one. And see how it goes at the end, but I'll be watching out because I think Slapper's pit. He has pit.
Yeah,
so
Slapper did pit. Yeah,
Slapper's has pit as well as It's Racing. So Slapper's has actually jumped It's Racing in the pit sequence.
In the pit lane, but I don't think he put fuel in. I think he just fixed his tyres. I think he's just fixed his damage rather. So I feel like
so yeah, will he be using the tyre, using the fuel up, and then he'll fill up?
Yeah.
So he'll do a short first stop, long second stop, where it will be a long first stop, short second. So yeah, that'll just definitely play out. But you know, Witz has got the younger tyres and Slapper's got the older tyres, so we'll just wait and see on how this plays out. So
Yeah.
that'll be very interesting, as some of the other drivers in front of these guys haven't actually pit either. So
Oh, you can see
Budsy,
Budsy going
John.
side by side. John going around the outside. Some beautiful racing amongst those two. So well respected between the MSR and its racing driver. Budsy 76 taking the inside line going into turn 3. The Lexus a little bit slipperier than the Nissan in a straight line. So will Budsy take that to his advantage on the braking zone? Will John be able to hold around the outside? He doesn't. So he's just going to hold it there. He's just going to go for a switchback move. He goes left, but he fakes it into the left-hand side and doesn't make the move. So he's not able to make the move on Budsy just yet. He gets a really good exit there. He just clips the grass there. He clips the barrier, but no damage done. If that was the older model, DJ,
Yes,
he'd be getting damaged.
He did get damaged.
Oh, he did get damaged.
John got right rear suspension. So.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, it was a little bit blurry on my end. I couldn't see that. So John, controversy for John 27 TCT, trying to make a move on Budsy 76. Went a little bit too happy on the throttle there. And on the right-hand side of his car, he just clipped the wall. That did see him clip the wall, the barrier, and unfortunately for John, that is damage for him, and that's going to be a long transit to the pit lane because he's so far down the orders. We see a DNF come from Ice Avenger, unfortunately, with a DNF retirement for the Ice Boy, for the Ice Man, the owner of Ice Racing Group, unfortunately not able to continue his race at the end of lap 7, at the end of lap 6 rather. So, but yeah, that big surprise there for John to cop damage there, and he won't just lose out to Budsy, he's going to lose out to Kaizen as well before the pit lane, before he gets to the pit lane.
Yeah, his Kaizen's made some massive ground up to John, so that's definitely not what John wants. He's lost a lot of time there, and that really shows on how much that damage can affect him. And you know, normally their damage just washes off, where this one, it actually, you know, they're on heavy damage, so it's going to stay on until they go in the pit. So
yeah, but even like through John's lap, his lap times is not very consistent at all. So he's been really struggling to find that pace, the pace that he's been showing. Like he is the championship leader, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, for TS2 touring cars, and he's got engine damage. Oh, not engine damage. He's got front right suspension damage, and he is hobbling him. So you can see through the steering wheel work that he's got on the straight. It's almost like crabbing along the straight there. He's really trying to nurse the car to the pit lane so he can at least get a pit stop done, like a compulsory tyre and fuel stop done.
Yeah, you know, he's at lap 7, and then he'll pit now essentially, and then he'll want to pit around lap probably 14, 15. You can see him, he's got a slight, I think left hand down, so that's not ideal. You know, he's lifting when he has to, and Kaizen's actually not making any ground on him here where I thought he may have, so maybe Kaizen's been a little bit overprotective, and John goes a little bit
too deep there. Yeah, he was just deep.
So.
He's just really struggling. You could just see he's not favouring it at all there. And the one thing that drivers do have to be careful is that white line, because if he cross that line there, it's a slap on 3-second penalty for John 27. But we'll wait and see as we see Kaizen take 4th, and Aussie Hypnotic, the quiet achiever, in the top 5 as well there. So he's also in championship contention fight as well. So he's hanging around at the top 6, top 7 for Aussie Hypnotic there. So there's a couple of the WTCC boys doing some really good work to get their cars in the top 10, with Slappers being the lead driver.
Oh, that's a disconnect from John.
Oh,
He's
no.
just dropped out of the room.
Oh, well, we'll have to wait and see what the interview is like for John 27 TCT post race. We'll have to wait and see if he gets any intercoms from John about his race, but that is unfortunate. And the championship leader, I always keep forgetting about it. The championship leader has disconnected from the lobby, and this is going to play favourable for Captain Muffin and Lunacy to gain margin on John 27 TCT. So this will count as a drop round for John, but these guys will want to try and take as much point advantages as they can going into the final race on the second last weekend of December in 2022 to try and get themselves up into that championship fight and take the title away from the It's Racing Esports camp. So Captain Muffin still ahead of Lunacy, so Lunacy's not letting go of the back end of Captain Muffin's Honda NSX, with Budsy in 3rd, Kaizen in 4th, Aussie Hypnotic rounding out the top 5, Rusty in 6th, Mad Dog in 7th, and Devlin in 8th. But that is a huge talking point for John 27, taking the disconnect and losing out big championship points as well.
Yeah, that's a massive DNF for him, because that'll be a massive 0-point round. So we'll definitely wait and see what happens to on John here. Whether or not he was probably angry or what happened there, I'm not overly sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. To see what happened to John 27 TCT's connection there. Obviously, like I say, it could be a bit of a unhappy moment in the car. He just didn't like it, and compared to what he's been trying to do with the Honda. But also as well, he also has to focus on a top 6 shootout qualifying that he will be participating later on this evening. So we'll also be keeping an eye on him. So whether he gets his internet sorted out, we shall wait and see if he can get himself in the top 6 shootout. But Muffin and Lunacy still neck and neck with each other, first and second, and the MSR boys in third and fourth place, with Budsy ahead of Kaiser and Aussie Hypnotic, the sole WTCC in the top 5, with Rusty, Mad Dog, Devlin, the sole ICE Racing Group driver, in 8th place. So doing himself a really good job there in 8th place. But as I say that, he just gets overtaken by Slapper's mate 117 after making an early pit stop to fix up the damage. So Devlin losing out on the end of the back straight there, and Slappers gets ahead before the corner, before the right-hander going into this infield section. So Devlin in 9th, and then It's Racing rounding up the top 10. So It's Racing with an early strategy there, obviously not by his choice, unfortunately. So he did suffer damage at the end of lap 4, so he'll be one to keep an eye on, if whether he'll make another pit stop or whether he's going to stay on the same tyres. But then we have Robbo in 11th place, and Rugworth rounding up the 12th, and looks to be last place as well, with the DNS coming from Benjo 19 and also John 27 TCT.
Yeah, it's it's one massive DNF there for John. It's probably something that he didn't want at all.
No, definitely not. You don't want to. We definitely didn't want to see John have a disconnect there, because I guess in a way any points counts for your championship. So yeah, if you don't finish in the top 5, if you finish in the top 10 at least, you get yourself some sort of points. You know, instead of just getting yourself a big fat 0 and making it a drop round. I mean, it's always good just to get points wherever you can. So unlucky for John. Rugworth just hanging around at the top end, outside of the top 10 in 12th place as the last of the drivers there, 21 seconds behind Robbo. And unfortunate for him to cop damage on the first lap, and he's also picked up damage as well. So we can see they're displaying on his car. So he's got front splitter damage. But so we want to keep our eyes on the front drivers. We want to see who's going to be the first to make pit stop. Lap 9 of 23. So this will give them a good reference to see if they can go for the one-stop DJ, and whether Captain Muffin, especially with an MR car, if he can make that car go for a one-stop strategy, and maybe Lunacy could go a little bit longer on his tyres.
Yeah, I think Muffin's used a bit of fuel here, a bit more fuel as well too. So I think that's one of the main thing as well. Is the Honda uses a bit more fuel and revs a bit higher than what the let's see if I can go. So it maxes out, showing here red lines at 9, where the Lexus is about 8.7-ish. So it's about 350 rev difference in the car. So in the long run, you know, that can make a lot of difference. Essentially, when you come into fuel usage and stuff like that too. So, but Lunacy's dropped off a little bit of the back here. He's set to PB, but these guys they're actually doing lap times within a 1/10 to a 1/10 and a half of each other every single lap. Yeah.
It just reminds you of just the old days of where you got your rivalries, you know, like in supercars, you have your Kiwis in McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen just sharing lap times, just going purple lap after purple lap. And just the guys are just going up at the front, and they're basically setting qualifying lap times, which unfortunately that lap time for Lunacy just dropped off a lot of time compared to his previous lap. But these guys are just hammer and tong for lap times. They're just within each other, a few 10s, 100s, and I guess in a way the odd occasional half a second. But once that half second is set, then somehow they just gain it back, and it's just incredible the pace that they get out of these cars and how much they can take advantage of, as we see Lunacy go purple in that first sector. Budsy actually improves on his lap time as well, so he's finding a bit of pace in the latter stages. LP's 76 MSR Lexus. Kaizen has been into the 3-minute 8.7, so he's setting himself a really good time. Let's see what we got down the rest of the grid. Ozzy Hypnotic at 3:09 as his personal best, and then Rusty in the 3:10. So yeah, there's a big difference between the top drivers in the top two, especially.
Yeah, Sappers has done a 3:08 here, It's Racing done a 3:08, and then Devlin down here on a 3:12, Robbo 3:11, Rugworth 3:14. So I think probably the only issue here with Rugworth is he's carrying damage. So I think he's just kind of just plodding around, making some laps, because obviously he's, you know, lowest he can finish is 12th because of the 2 DNFs. But I think, you know, he's just plodding along. You know, he's like, oh, I'm not going to get the win. You know, I'll just get some points here. So a bit unfortunate he's not further up the pack, because we do know what Rugworth is capable of, which is very unfortunate to see him down there. But I'm hearing apparently from Benjo that the whole system just shut down for no reason, and apparently a power surge on the house or something or other like that. I'm not overly too sure, but seems to be a bit of another hardware failure for Benjo, unfortunately. So we'll hopefully see him next round in the TS2 series. So, but other than that, Lunacy looks to have dropped off the back a little bit here.
So that's the first time we've actually seen the gap over 2 seconds between the two drivers. So Muffin, with the consistency and with the consistent laps and Lunacy over the last couple of laps, he's just been struggling to find grip, as we see he's 4/10 down on his personal best. So this will be another 3:08 lap where Captain Muffin will be looking to set himself on another 3:07. So could this be the time that Lunacy might come into the pit lane? Would an undercut be a strategy for Lunacy to try and get himself over Muffin for 1 lap? You know, fresh tyres for 1 lap, while Muffin has to deal with some tyres, with some worn out tyres. And maybe it could be an option for Lunacy. If he doesn't pit now, he'll probably do it in the next lap, I'd say.
Yeah, well, looking at the tyres and stuff like that, you know, he's roughly about halfway, unless he's just trying to go. These two guys are going for a 1-stop here, which I think Budsy is as well. So I think they're just trying to, you know, get it to probably lap 11, lap 12, and then chuck. Muffin runs wide there. That's really like, he's so lucky there, because, you know, I think we've both, you know, everyone's done it. You run a little bit wide there, and what happens? It's like there's a suction on the wall, and the wall just sucks you in and keeps you on the grass, and you can't get out of it. So it's a bit unfortunate there from Muffin, but he's still gaining a bit of decent time on Lunacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's also set another 3:08, and Muffin got himself in the 3:07s on that last lap as well. You can see there on the exit of turn 2, just really trying to get the throttle down as early as possible, but you can see the rear end of the car just not agreeing with what he's implementing on the right pedal. So unfortunately on the loud pedal for Lunacy, and he's just losing time. He's gained a little bit on that section, but that's thanks to the slipperiness of the Lexus RCF 2016 model Lexus RCF that we have on Gran Turismo. As we see, Rusty Nutt's the first of the leading pack on lap 10 of 23, making his compulsory pit stop. As we see Slapper's mate 117 go through, and as well as It's Racing goes through as well. So are we definitely keeping an eye on what It's Racing does if he goes for that second pit stop? Because yeah, I mean, he could stay out. I think for him, he could definitely stay out for the whole race. As he just goes through, does he got damage? He looks like did he get any damage? No.
The new damage model kind of really saved him there.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks like he just sent it into the barrier on the exit of turn 2, and it just had, like you said, it has that suction. Like you think you make the corner, but as soon as you just plant the throttle just a tiny bit, a little percentage, it just sucks you into the wall, and you just get damage. You just get that slight damage on the car. So we'll wait and see what It's Racing does, and whether he does stick it out for the 1-stop at the end of this race. But we'll keep an eye on what he does, and especially what the front 2 guys. But it looks like Lunacy's actually closed in a gap, so he's actually down to 1.2 between him and Muffin for the lead of the race. So who will be the first one to blink, DJ? Will it be Muffin? Will it be Lunacy? Will they pit this lap as Lunacy just runs? As Muffin just runs a little bit wide, but so did Lunacy. So it's still even Stevens around this track. He's down 1.2 on his personal best as well.
Yeah, don't mind me flicking through. I'm just trying to look at the difference in the tyres here, but I think the Muffins use less front but more rear, but Lunacy's used more front, less rear. So I think that's where the whole MR-FR thing comes in. So the fuel as well is a pretty massive difference. I think Lunacy would have maybe probably 4, maybe 5 litres more. I won't go 5, that's probably a bit of a stretch. Maybe 1.5 litres, 2 litres more than what Muffin has. So
yeah,
as much as I think when
and
Muffin,
yeah, and that is about at least 2 seconds pit stop in the pit stops that you gain. So it's roughly about 2 seconds of what you get. So whatever Muffin puts in and then whatever Lunacy puts in, it'll be interesting to see what they do. So do any of these drivers in? Muffin goes in, so he's the first to blink. So Lunacy is going for the overcut. So this will be an interesting one for Lunacy as he sets himself a 3:07. So he needs another 3:07 lap to go through for one more lap, or will he go for 2 laps so he can have the freshest tyres? But Muffin in the pit lane with 16 litres of fuel and are going to be changing onto a new set of tyres. But will Budsy and Kaizen follow Muffin through? Will they see the calling card for the Lexus drivers? No, he stays out in the pit lane, so he's going to stay out for one more lap. What about Kaizen? He's going to stay out for one more lap. Aussie Hypnotic, will he go into the pit? No, he stays out for one more lap as well. And Muffin has just slotted in back into 4th place, and he's got himself some clear air. So this is crucial for Muffin. He needs a really good outlap. Captain Muffin 88 in clear air, 3.2 behind Kaizen and ahead of Aussie Hypnotic. So this is going to be really crucial for Muffin to take back the lead, and even so increase the lead as well.
Yeah, I think you know, what would you do would you do 1 or 2 more laps if you're Lunacy, or would you react to Muffin coming in? So would you come in at the end of this lap?
I think I would have to. I think I would just react. Like, I mean, Muffin's got the telemetry that he needs. He can see the gap between him and Lunacy. Lunacy can't see what the gap is between him and Muffin. So with Muffin's pace, if he knows he's closing the gap, then he knows that Lunacy is struggling. But if Lunacy doesn't know, you don't have intercoms with team members to tell you what the gap is. But Lunacy is kind of keeping the gap stable there. Muffin did make a mistake on the slow right-hander, almost clipping it into the barrier as well. So Captain Muffin just trying to get the tyres phased into the car and get himself into a bit of a rhythm. But the gap is staying the same, DJ. So could this work in Lunacy's favour? Could he go for one more lap? I'm not too sure, but I feel like he's definitely closing in on Kaizen for sure. Lunacy is just eking out that gap, just keeping it stable, but he doesn't know what the gap is between him and Muffin. But keep in mind, DJ, he's got less time in the pit lane to put fuel in the car, so he could go for a little bit of a strategy to put less fuel in the car and keep the lead of the race.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only bad downfall of leading, is you can't actually see the relative to 3rd, 4th down the field, which essentially, if I was leading, I would want to see that, because I know I did that at Bathurst. But yeah, it's definitely in the hands of Muffin here at the moment.
Exactly, and it's actually gone up to 22 seconds, so a little bit more time found by Lunacy. So it looks like the overcut could be working in his favour, but let's keep our eye on what is coming through Lunacy, the second last corner.
I think coming he's on a purple here too. He got a purple sector down the back straight, so he's possibly for a low 7.
If he's on for a fast lap, it could be his fastest in lap that he does. And by judging by that, he is coming into the pit lane. So that is a brilliant last sector there, last lap there for Lunacy. He's done the best that he could. He's also come in with 16 litres of fuel, just like what Muffin did. What about Budsy 76? Will he stay out for one more lap? Can he keep himself? He knows he's going to keep the car in the top 3, but will he make that pit stop, or will he take the lead of this race? But keeping our eyes on Muffin as Budsy pits. We've got Kaizen in 3rd, and Muffin's coming around the final corner. So looking between Lunacy and Muffin, who's going to come out in front? Lunacy's ahead, but it looks like Muffin's got the momentum as we go on board with Captain Muffin 88. And look at that, DJ. He's got himself a huge margin over Captain Muffin 88. So Lunacy, a beautiful pit stop by the Project 1 racing team crew, has got himself a really good overcut. And it looks like Muffin's just got a little bit too deep there. And he's just lost. He hasn't lost out by a little bit. He's lost out by 3 seconds, DJ.
Yeah, I think that's the fuel. The fuel was the problem there, because Muffin came in and he had 16 litres, right? Lunacy came in a lap later and then he had 16 litres. So that was definitely the time loss there between the Honda and the Lexus. So I think that was obviously a bit unfortunate there for Muffin, but Lunacy definitely played that to perfection. You know, I don't know whether he's fuel saving or not, but him and Budsy have definitely that. But look at this here. It's Racing's on the back of Budsy, so
it's Racing with a bit of worn tyres on the back of Budsy 76. Budsy on the fresh compound. We'll have to wait and see if It's Racing does make a pit stop, because he's on very worn tyres. He's got himself a good margin over Mad Dog, so I don't think Mad Dog as well has made a pit stop either. So we're looking to see him make a pit stop, as he's actually in the red zone for fuel as he runs the car very deep going into the corner, and Kaizen's out in 6th place and on fresh tyres, and he'll be getting himself securing his spot in the top 5 if the race stays as it is. But Mad Dog and It's Racing, we're going to keep our eyes on if both drivers have to make a pit stop. Mad Dog definitely does, but what about It's Racing?
Yeah, there'll definitely be one to play for, but I don't know here. You know, Budsy does have had a pit stop, but I don't know if those tyres will last. But then again, he did pit on lap 3, I believe it was. So if he does go to the end, it just depends on whether or not those tyres are actually going to have enough grip to hold of Budsy, who's on a fresh set of racing medium. So I don't know, man. As I said, it's just a bit of a catch-22. It seems to be that way quite a bit at the moment, but yeah, it's showing.
He's closing up on him. He's really taking the worn tyres to his advantage, and Budsy's not really getting too much temperature. Oh, as he just runs the car a little bit wide there, so he just had to let off the throttle just a little bit longer. He's just out of the slipstream range, and that Lexus is very slippery in a straight line, so you'll see Budsy just pull away here. Just that little bit over It's Racing, and It's Racing, you could definitely see, especially on that camera angle, he was struggling with tyre wear. So as we look in the background, Kaizen looks to be making a move on Mad Dog as he's trying to close up on him pretty soon, but he obviously, no words come through to Kaizen that he doesn't know that if Mad Dog is making a pit stop sooner or later, but you can see with the gaps closing, he knows that he has to make a pit stop. So that's not a factor for Mad Dog, but we'll wait for Kaizen. And we'll wait and see if he makes the move, or he's going to be patient enough and wait for Mad Dog to come to the pit lane. As a racer instinct, DJ, you know, you've got a driver ahead of you and they have to make a pit stop. What would you do in that instance? Would you just sit behind, or would you want to get the move done as quickly as possible?
I don't know. It's kind of a hard one, because essentially Kaizen's been up top 5 since the start of the race, so he should know where Mad Dog's sitting, and there's no way of Mad Dog being up there while having a pit stop. You know, they're not lapping. Mad Dog's not lapping at times where he can make that much time. You know, you would want to be lapping, you know, 5 or 10 seconds faster, but he's not. So I think personally, if Kaizen gets close, you know, it'd be me. I'd give a bit of flash of the headlights at home to pass. If not, I'll just, you know, try and push and let them make a mistake, you know. But I think, you know, if it was in the first stint, it'd be a different story, because then I'd try and sit behind and, you know, save a bit of fuel, but then also you're losing time to the leader. So I think it's kind of got to, you know, go with the flow and see how it goes.
Yeah.
In the moment, essentially, because, you know, that was like me at in Bathurst in stint 3. You know, on that restart, yeah, it was a messy restart. 4 cars in front of me got damaged. I didn't have damage, and me and Lunacy didn't get damaged, but the cars in front of me did. So I passed Ando going into 2, and then I knew Ridwan had damage. Actually, I didn't know Ridwan had damage, but the reason I found it is because of how much time I gained going up up Mountain Straight. So I just sat behind him, and I could see he was struggling over the top. So I thought, you know, I'm not going to push this. I'm just going to leave it, because I'm going to have the straight line speed over him. I wasn't catching Lunacy, so, you know, I think the same really kind of plays out with, you know, tyres and stuff like that. You know, there's a 8-second gap between Kaizen and It's Racing, and 9 seconds behind him. So he's not going to catch It's Racing unless he makes a mistake, and unless he makes a mistake, he won't lose a position to Aussie. So essentially it's kind of cemented in P5 essentially, because
and it'll also depend if It's Racing is going to make another pit stop, but he's actually losing time to Budsy 76 there, so it's now eked out to 1.2, so the fresh tyres are working to his favour. It's Racing just drifts through the corner on the exit of the bridge there. It was a beautiful sight to see for It's Racing. But Kaizen, yeah, he's going to look towards the back straight to make a move, but like you said, he's got a good healthy margin between him and Aussie Hypnotic there, so he wants to really just keep the car where he wants it. Now he's on a back straight, and he's got a little bit more slipstream advantage, a little bit more tyre advantage there. But Mad Dog, you can see he's on the red line, so I think this is the lap that he's going to pit. But he's done it well. You could say Mad Dog's done very well to hold out for as long as he can. Lap 14 of 23, and now he's going to start thinking about a pit stop. So he won't confirm himself inside the top 8, I don't think, but we'll have to wait and see what the strategy is for Mad Dog 007, who's actually also a WTCC driver, so I also missed out on that. I forgot he was a WTCC driver, so the lead WTCC driver, Mad Dog 007 with Aussie in 7th, but he'll take that back and make it 6th place. Slappers, mate, coming through, unfortunate for him, a bit of an unfortunate end for him on the end of lap 1. Coming in for damage and not taking the chance to change tyres and put fuel in the car. And by looking at it, we see Captain Muffin actually go purple on his lap, so a 307.1. So beautiful lap there by Captain Muffin. He's closing in on Lunacy, but Lunacy's got that 1 lap fresh tyres. But Muffin's going to give it his all. He's got a bit of a heavier tank of fuel in his car. He's got a bit of a heavier car, but we know Captain Muffin, he's going to be eking that car out to its full potential and challenge his co-driver teammate from CP Motorsports.
Yeah, I think he's kind of gained a bit of time here on Lunacy, because he did a 308 dead and then a 307.1, where Lunacy did a 310.2 and a 307.9. So he's gained essentially 2 tenths. But in saying that, Lunacy's just responded with a faster sector, so he's 4 tenths faster. So if he should stay like this, he'll be on for a 306. So, you know, these guys are really taking it, as I said before, with John as well, before he DC'd, you know. Lunacy's giving Muffin a bit of rope, and then he's taking it with all his stride, but then, you know, straight after that, Muffin loses the rope. So it's, you know, like essentially it's a bungee cord between these two drivers, and it's honestly good to see. You know, like last year we had, you know, Viper Z and Matt fighting for the championship as well. So essentially, I think, would you say that this battle this year between Lunacy and Muffin is essentially a Viper Z and Mint Matt? As I say that, Muffin goes purple too, so he's responding as well to Lunacy. So these guys are definitely keeping each other on their toes.
Look, I think between the last few rounds that we've seen Lunacy, Muffin, and John battling each other, and we've seen them fight really hard, it does kind of remind me of what we saw in TS2, but we also saw the likelihood of Cylon 96 as well as Little Blacko from the 2021 TS2 Touring Cars Champion. They were actually taking a bit of a fight amongst those drivers as well. Cylon especially, he was putting up a really good fight to try and challenge these guys. And we saw, and we can kind of see that a little bit now with Buzzy, especially in the last race as Bathurst. He just kept his nose clean, and he just got the car inside the top 6 or the top 5. He did himself a really good job. And now we're kind of seeing that again. So it's kind of seeing that Buzzy 76 is kind of playing that role that he's not the quickest, but he's just there. He's there to get the points, and he's just there to, you know, prove a point that, you know, he's not the quickest, but he's there on a consistency basis, and he's definitely earned his stripes there to be inside that top 3, with It's Racing right behind in 4th, still hanging on to the back end, and Kaizen just losing a bit of time. So yeah, you could kind of say, if we add John to the mix and, you know, maybe throw a surprise package in It's Racing especially, but we won't see It's Racing anymore at the end of this Sainte-Croix 250-kilometer race. So I think those top 3 will definitely be an interesting and awesome show to watch come the end of the season.
Yeah, like playing into the season, I think Buzzy's probably been the most consistent one. You know, like obviously we don't have Xylon as much in the series now. I think my guess would he be focusing on enduros. That's probably why he's not racing.
Yeah,
racing
absolutely.
So yeah, he is kind of focusing on the enduros, which, you know, all by all means he has all his right to. He doesn't have to race TS2. You know, we've got drop rounds in there, so in the odd case that, you know, you do want to focus on that or something or other. But yeah, you know, he's kind of Xylon from last year. You know, he was essentially like a bit of a secret assassin, but he's holding his own, and he's making it known of himself. But yeah, I think he's doing a very solid job here. But in regards to the whole It's Racing pitting thing, I reckon he's just going to stay out, because he's going to lose 30 seconds in that pit stop sequence. If he does that, he's going to drop to at least 7th, maybe, if not 8th. So
yeah, so is there any point for him to pit? You know, he might, yes, he will suffer with tyre wear, but obviously he's got 11 seconds over Kaizen, and the worst case scenario is that he could be overtaken by Kaizen with 1 lap to go. So It's Racing, I think, is going to do the hard yards, try and just drop back a little bit from Budsy, but not too much, and just save those front tires, because those front tires are wearing, as we say, they just goes on the gravel trap. He saves it, doesn't go full 360 rotation on that car. Done that a couple of times in the qualifying session. You just get your car on the gravel and it just does a full 360 pirouette, and you just have to save it from hitting the barriers. But It's Racing holding on to 4th place, doing a solid job on his final outing in TS2. So the admin of Trackstars getting to do whatever he wants, you could say, DJ. So obviously Trackstars is his baby, and yeah, if he wants to race TS2, he'll do TS2. If he wants to race TS3, he can do that as well.
Yeah, well, he's not in it for essentially the championship in TS2. You know, he's off the championship. He's essentially in an off season for sprint cars. He's not in main series. You know, he's got his drivers in, obviously myself, Brando, John, Venti, Latigator, and obviously the co-drivers with Matt as well. So, you know, he's got his drivers there. He doesn't have to do it. Essentially, he's being kind of a Roland Dane. You know, like Roland Dane, you know, jumps into a series. You know, I think it was at Townsville, the Tin Tops or something or other like that. He jumped in and he'd done a couple of laps. So, you know, he's still keeping his foot in it, but he's racing in there. He's not going out there to cause any harm. So, he's just, you know, keeping his head in it and having some fun essentially in his off season to his sprint cars. So yeah, I think at the same time he's kind of enjoying it and then doing what he has to. So he'll step in if he needs to. You know, essentially, you know, what you would probably do as a team boss if you weren't racing. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just have a bit of fun. Have a bit of fun. You know, race with people that you don't know or you that are brand new to the series, and you know, just get to see what they're like as a driver and as a person. And yeah, you get to learn from each other, and they get to learn off you. So It's Racing is definitely learning a lot from, especially the likes of Budsy 76, that he knows he's a good driver. But you know, obviously with the worn tires compared to the fresh tires, you can definitely tell that Budsy's got the advantage. He's 2.4 ahead of him. But even in the early stints, he was really taking it at Budsy, and Budsy held his own to hold out 3rd place. But Kaizen is holding on to 5th. He's just dropping back a little bit, so he's actually lost a second to It's Racing on that last lap, and he's actually getting closer. And actually, Aussie Hypnotic is actually closing the gap to Kaizen in 6th place. But we see Rusty Nuts in 7th, and Slappers Mate making that recovery drive into 8th place. And yeah, so there we go. Aussie Hypnotic is the fastest WTCC driver, with Mad Dog making his pit stop and coming out in P9. So nice job there for Mad Dog. Only 15 seconds behind Slappers, but on fresh tyres, so maybe keep an eye on him, what he does, and if he can take the challenge to Slappers Mate 117. Robo Sport hanging out into the top 10 with Rugworth in 11th, and unfortunately Devlin will be the last of the runners in 12th and last place. Is actually a lap down, I believe. So yeah, he's just been lapped there by Lunacy and Muffin. So a bit unfortunate for Devlin, but holding his own, and he's going to keep his eyes on the prize for the main race tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. The race start for the Trackstars Touring Cars Sainte-Croix 1500. Can't wait to see what happens at the end of the race. But so far, Lunacy leading Captain Muffin. I do say that he is actually closing in on Lunacy. Captain Muffin is.
Yeah, 1.9 seconds here. So
just a little bit.
Yeah, he's. As I said, they're responding with each other. 306.8, a 306.9, a 306.5, and a 306.7, and Lunacy just went purple. So they're taking it to each other. This is just yeah, it's just, you know, it's good racing to see. You know, they're not dirty drivers. You know, I'll race against these guys any day. You know, like there's some drivers that I don't like racing against, but these guys, you know, even though, you know, I'm on controller, Lunacy's on controller, yourself, Woodsy, you know, like we all give each other racing room, and it's just outstanding racing. And when that happens, you know, it just makes everything fun. And yeah, it just makes it that much better. So yeah, but these guys are definitely putting in a bit of a show here. But I wonder if Muffin might be able to close this gap to Lunacy, because Muffin's tyres are only just slightly worn than Lunacy's, but he's starting to burn some more fuel, so he's nearly at the same level as Lunacy. So, oh no, Muffin's hit the wall. He's got damage, and he's going to get a 3-second penalty there. This may put Budsy into P2.
I just saw that as well from Muffin. So that's a huge mistake by the CP Motorsports driver. He just clips the grass, and unfortunately for him, he just goes into the barrier on the left-hand side. Thankfully, he found the pit lane, but unfortunately, like you said, he just picked himself a 3-second penalty there. And I don't know how close Budsy's going to get to him, as we see Captain Muffin actually exiting the pit lane right now. But as you said, 3 seconds could be a very long time, but that was a huge mistake. The first mistake we've actually seen from Captain Muffin in a very long time, DJ, and that was and it proves to be a costly one as well.
Yeah, it's a massive costly one. Like he probably won't lose the position, but yeah.
I think he's going to keep that position. Yeah,
yeah.
But he actually didn't change. It didn't change tires as well, so I think he's just obviously happy with that compound. I would have actually gone for a little cheeky tire pit stop there. Well, it was Captain Muffin. But anyway, it's
Would you though? You know,
you're not going to gain anything to lunacy. I think you're only just going to go for bragging rights for fastest lap. That's all.
But even so, then you do that and then serve the 3-second penalty as well. You're going to lose time to Budsy. So I think that's where, you know, he jumped in and he crossed the line. So he'll cop what would be probably 3 or 4 seconds in the tyre change, plus then 3 seconds in the penalty. So realistically, you're looking at roughly 6 seconds, and then I can't remember where they burn the penalty, but if it's on the back straight, you know, you'll burn that penalty, and it'll drop you down to 110, 120, and Budsy will come zooming through at 250, 260. So he'll make up that time in no tomorrow. So I think Muffin's definitely gone the smarter thing here, is just fixing the damage and not taking any tyres. So he's definitely gone for position here. So I think he may have been pushing a little bit too hard to that final corner there, which is a bit unfortunate. But you know, there's not.
You could definitely see he was really trying to catch up to Lunacy, because like you said, they were just trading fastest laps, and Muffin was really on a purple lap as well at the time before he made the mistake. But he's so lucky that he actually got damaged, and the pit stop and the pit lane was right there. It could have been so much worse had the pit lane been a little bit more extended out, and he wouldn't have no chance to make the pit lane. So he's very fortunate. But here he comes, Captain Muffin 88, about to serve his penalty. 3 seconds. He's got 9.4. 9.6 over Budsy 76, and we'll wait and see what that gap drops down to as he serves his penalty right now. And Budsy's about to come onto the back straight right now. He's actually on it, and you can see he's closing, but yes, definitely not enough there. So like you said, it's a very good call for Muffin to not make it
under 6, nearly under 5 seconds. So he's, what was a 3-second penalty, he's turned into 5.5. So
oh wow,
you know, just because of purely the speed difference, you know, it'll drop you to 100, 110 to burn the penalty, and then Budsy's, you know, essentially pushing to 250. So that time difference on track, essentially, plus what would be 3 or 4 seconds in a tyre change, you know, he would have potentially dropped behind Budsy. So smart move there, but yeah, Muffin was lucky that where the pit lane was and where he hit the wall. So, you know, I would have done the same thing. I would have copped the pit line penalty. You know, you're going to drop to lunacy anyway, so just cop it on the chin and just go with the flow. But so far, I think lunacy's on lap 19, which I believe after this is no more safety cars. So Woodsy's had a bit of a lonely run in the pit lane there in his little yellow and red and blue safety car. But unfortunately, we didn't see Woodsy out there. But he's actually got damage, so I think he's just blending in with the safety car ways.
Absolutely. You know, we've had plenty of good safety car drivers cop damage, and now he's part of it. But I think he would have done that on purpose. Good old Woodsy. But I wonder if maybe Budsy's eyes actually lit up for a second there, because if he saw Captain Muffin make that pit lane, he would have thought, oh, something's happened big time. And yeah, obviously something did happen big time, a major incident that Muffin had. But you know, when you see someone in the pit lane, do you always think that maybe they just you know, they're just changing tires for strategy, or do you think they just might be topping up for fuel, or they could just, like you said, like we just saw, pitting for damage? You just don't know, because it's just a very awkward situation. Because yeah, towards the end of the race, you don't really see anyone making a pit stop, and even It's Racing he's not losing time to Kaizen. Actually, Kaizen, on the other hand, is actually losing time to Aussie Hypnotic as well. So Aussie Hypnotic has actually closed that gap massive. He's 3.1 behind Kaizen. I don't see any damage coming from him as well, but Aussie's been reeling in the lap times. He's actually faster than Kaizen TY98, and we'll wait and see what he's like at the end of the at the end of the lap 20 at the end of 23 laps. And Aussie's really closing in that gap on the MSR driver. He wants that top 5, and he wants, in a way, you could say he wants to prevent Kaizen from getting an automatic reserve for my team.
Yeah, well, you know, if it was me, I'd try and battle off Aussie, but Aussie's doing probably 1 second a lap faster, roughly give or take, to Kaizen, but with what would be 4 laps to go at the end of this, you know, it's really anyone's game between these two. As Aussie's gained 0.3 to Kaizen there, 0.4, nearly 5/10 through there, so that's definitely looks to be Kaizen's weak point there, but, you know, will he battle with Aussie here or let him go, or, you know, because...
Yeah, it's very interesting because you can see he's just rapidly closing, and he's actually got more tyre wear compared to Kaizen. Kaizen actually pitted earlier than Aussie Hypnotic from what I remember. But Aussie, I know Aussie as a driver, he's a very aggressive driver. He'll use the tyres up to the very bone limit, and he'll just really use them until it's like right on the last tread of tyre wear. But you can see Kaizen's just a second over. So is there something with Kaizen like we're not seeing through the telemetry? Has he actually got damage? I mean, it's not showing up on the display, but maybe sometimes the display is not accurate, and he's actually losing time. He's actually losing time on the straight as well, DJ. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell what's going on with Kaizen's car.
Maybe GT's been GT, or maybe Kaizen's, you know, hasn't done an oil change and he's dropped the horsepower mid-race. So that's potential as well. Because obviously myself at Bathurst in stint 3, I was actually 5 horsepower down. So look, that could possibly, you know, be something, but I don't know. Obviously, you may have to ask him post-race just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe he might be getting a bit tired, you know. It's his debut race and he's jumped into a 250k
Yeah, he's jumped into an endurance race.
He's jumped into a 250k enduro, and it's just gone over an hour and we still got 4 laps to go. So you're still, you know, doing another, what would be 12 to 15 minutes. So, you know, an hour and 15 minutes for your debut race. It's a long time. So, you know, hats off to him for jumping in and giving it a go. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, where would he have been if he was in the series a little bit earlier?
Yeah,
I think so. Being P5 so far, I think he's definitely making it known. You know, I've never heard of him, but, you know, I don't doubt any drivers myself at all.
No, definitely not. And he'll be one to keep an eye on at the later stages of the season, whether he goes for another round or goes for another few races here and there. We'll wait and see what Kaizen can do, but he's holding on to 5th place. Aussie Hypnotic right on his tail in 6th place, with Lunacy comfortably ahead of Muffin after Muffin's costly mistake there, going on to lap 19. So very unfortunate for Muffin, but Budsy holding on to 3rd. It's racing 4th, Kaizen in 5th. Aussie Hypnotic rounding up in 6th place. Slapper's mate 117 in 7th place, taking that position away from Rusty Nuts in 8th place. And then in 9th, Mad Dog is closing in. Oh no, sorry, Mad Dog, I thought was closing in on Rusty, but Rusty's actually lost time. So he's actually 25 seconds behind. And Robbo Sport hanging a bit of a lonely race for Robbo in 10th, as well as Rugworth and Devlin Calypso. So unfortunately for those guys, a bit of a lonely race for these guys. And unfortunately now for Lunacy, he's got a lonely race for himself to finish off this 250 kilometer race. That is the lead up for the Sainte-Croix 1500 tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. We go green flag racing. Who will take out the crown for the 3rd and final endurance rounds? Will be 3 for 3 for It's Racing, Esports, and DJ and Matt. We will see another competitor in the CP Motorsports entry. Will we see a few surprises from ISA? Can we see a surprise from Satellite, MSR, anybody? You know, it's all to play for. But until then, on my behalf, I do have to shoot off and do have a bit of a dinner that I need to attend. So I will be shooting off. So good luck with everything, DJ, and enjoy the rest of the race, buddy.
Yeah, I shall. They're about to go 3 to go after this, so I shall enjoy the next 10 minutes by myself. But it's good seeing you here, mate, and thank you for joining me this week, and it'll be good to see you next week. I think it's the throwback round next week, I believe. But yeah, so you shoot off, mate. I'll hold the fort down here just like I did last week. So you just go have fun at your dinner, and hopefully you can either watch on for the top 6 or jump in the com box if you're back. So we'll definitely wait and see when that happens. So till then, It's end spud being mashed in the com box and jumping out. So you unfortunately have myself for the rest of the race, but for now, give me 1 second. I just need to go for a code 20. So I'll see if I can find anyone that's kind of close together. Oh, Kaizen's got Aussie on the back of him, so I shall be back in 1 second. I'll leave it on this for you. Back. Woodsy still was high visibility jacket sitting in the pit lane here, as you call it, my friend. Yeah, so it's been a long 21 laps here for Lunacy, as Lunacy will go 2 laps to go at the end of this one. He's doing a pretty solid job here. Obviously there was unfortunate damage there from Muffin. So he's just gonna, I think they're gonna be set in P1, P2, and then a Budsy is gonna round out the podium here. So it'll definitely be interesting to see on where these guys end up, as Kaizen's starting to come under attack from Aussie here. So I think Kaizen's just hanging out at the moment, just waiting to see if he can try and keep Aussie at bay here and keep him behind him, as it's dropped down to 8/10. So yeah, that's definitely a very interesting one. Give me 1 second. It's Racing's done a solid job here on these tyres. They are in the red. I don't know how I'd be coping with those tyres. It's definitely going to be an interesting one on how we're going to go tomorrow, with the tyre wear and stuff like that, being the high RPM turbo, 300 horsepower extra, and the big wing with the more drag. So that mixed with fuel consumption and stuff like that, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting one to see. Is Aussie's really starting to close here on Kaizen, coming to turn 3 of this long circuit. So, he gets a really bad exit as he goes for his personal best lap there with a 309.015, where Aussie did a 308.8. So yeah, it's definitely the reason why Aussie has been closing down on Kaizen, but I think he's been really silent for the most of this race. You know, he's just plodded along and he's still sitting in P5. In the 888, I think it's Steel City. Yeah, Steel City MSR car. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. We've got 3 cars in here. Rugwith is obviously the VL Racing here, which is also a partner of Mass Buds, and I have one person jump out of the com box in And Spud and I actually gain a friend. So welcome Woodsy for the last what would be 1.5 laps, my friend.
Hey mate, how are you?
Oh, you know, it's always the same in the combox, you know, every week.
Oh, it's a bit busier than in pit lane at the moment, mate. So I thought I'd give you a bit of company here for the last lap and a bit.
Yeah, you didn't send up any curry to me, mate. You didn't send me up any butter chicken. You just ate it all for yourself in the safety car.
Nah, not enough there, mate. Not enough to go around.
But yeah, it's not been a bad race so far. I think you've definitely tuned up Lunacy and Muffin here. They're definitely starting to show in TS2, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, definitely for Lunacy, he's had an absolutely flawless race. As he goes on to start the last lap here, he's doing a fantastic job. And you know, hopefully, maybe next year he might have a full-time gig if he opts to.
Yeah, I think that would be probably his aim for next year. You know, even obviously with the different teams and stuff coming in next year, I'm not too sure what the team lineups are going to be like, but obviously, you know, yourself, you're jumping out of the number 1 CP next year, so that will that car will be put in the garage for probably put on a trophy shelf with all the trophies. So I think that car won't be touched as of the end of next year. So maybe, you know, that might be something that Chase might go down, you know, signing Lunacy, or maybe some drivers might be in a silly season and go elsewhere. So I think, you know, he'd definitely be on the watch for a full-time drive next year, and I'd be pretty worried if he was there, to be honest.
Absolutely. Even someone like Muffin, who came in at the start of the season into the TS2 to fulfill our co-driver role. He's done a magnificent job in TS2. Unfortunately, had that earlier error that you know, he crashed into the wall and whatnot. But still, he's done a magnificent job throughout this race and throughout the Enduros as well.
Yeah, and even in we'll go back to Daytona. He's the Daytona 500 winner too, so he did a pretty solid job there. Obviously defending myself and Speedy, because we were hounding the back of him on that last lap. You know, he was, you know, I went for a move on the inside and he just dropped down slightly, and I tagged the back of him and stuff like that. So it's...
Yeah. To see Kaizen and Aussie Hypnotic are going at it. They're going hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, Kaizen's really kept Aussie at bay here for these last 6 laps. I know if I was Aussie, I'd be pretty hungry for that P5.
Kaizen's certainly a lot tighter on fuel compared to Aussie, so I wonder if Kaizen's gone into fuel conserve mode over the last couple laps to ensure he's got enough to finish.
One thing I'm impressed though at is It's Racing's tyre conservation. He's run, I think, what would be 20 laps on those tyres. So, yeah.
Those, I'm pretty sure you get more grip out of a set of ceramic dinner plates at the moment than the front tyres he's got on that thing at the moment.
Which I'm surprised the rear's not wearing more than what the front is, which is a bit surprising. Granted, it's the MR car, but maybe that's the whole TS2 spec.
Nah, that's a negative. So there's a lot of downforce on the front, and obviously it is a high-powered car, but there's not enough power to overly spin the rear wheels, and obviously, you know, with the turbo lag and whatnot, it's not enough to torque to tear the rears up. So yeah.
Yeah, I think when you put it that way, you know, the BOP definitely plays with the aero there. But in saying that, Lunacy goes around the final corner here at Sainte-Croix C for the Sainte-Croix 250 here. He's the, what would be, winner for Trackstars 2022 TS2 Sainte-Croix 250. So he's taken it off It's Racing, which is a bit unfortunate, but he's had a very solid race, didn't make any mistakes, battled with Muffin for what would be, you know, 18, 17, 18 laps. You know, they were going toe to toe, and yeah, it was a pretty solid job there by him. We'll see if Muffin can do a purple. Oh no, he doesn't. So Muffin takes 2nd place here, and then we got Budsy coming around the last corner. He's very tight on fuel as well, rounding out the podium there. So Budsy's definitely kept a quiet race here. He's definitely done a very solid job there. I'd be impressed if I was Spud. So yeah, that's a very solid job from him. And It's Racing rounding out the last corner. Coming in here in P4, so he's done a pretty good solid recovery drive there. He was all the way down in 8th or 9th down there. So for the final time here, and Kaizen keeps Aussie at bay. And,
Oh.
he gets that P5. So that makes Kaizen on debut a main series eligible driver. Good work to him. So
Well done.
that's a solid
Fantastic.
debut drive there, jumping in for the 250 and then Slappers rounding out the top 7 here. Rusty Nuts coming in 8th place for Robbo Sport Racing. And then we got Mad Dog for WTCC, 30 seconds back from here. But in saying that, crossing the line, what would be a lap down would be Robbo and Devlin. Because I did a 3-minute max timer and they obviously exceeded that. So that's all you could do. But yeah, big ups here to the Project One racing team, Lunacy. He's done a solid job, didn't make any mistakes. You know, he was hunting Muffin for majority of that first sequence of the race there, but I think the fuel usage of the Honda really kind of hurt Muffin there in that first stage.
Yeah, wasn't able to get enough of a gap over Lunacy there, and obviously the Lexus with a bit better fuel conservation there was able to use that to his advantage when it came to the pit stops and yeah, pulled a gap, and ultimately that put the pressure back on the Muffin, and it ultimately forced him into an error whilst trying to catch him. So really well done to both guys, even with the error from Muffin. It was good pressure from both drivers, and you know, it was fantastic racing, clean, and you know, just it's good to see, especially, you know, as a tier 2 series.
Yeah,
good practice leading into, you know, potential full-time role for next year.
Exactly, and you know, as I said, I was going to say in a Spud earlier, you know, I'll race against those guys. You know, yourself, you know, me, you, Spud. It's everyone in main series, and then those top guys there, Muffin, Lunacy, Budsy. You know, I'll race against them all day, every day. You know, it's just awesome racing. You know, nothing's dirty, anything like that. So you know, we are drivers. We do make mistakes every now and again, but you know, the overall, you know, racing is just, you know, phenomenal to race against.
Absolutely.
And obviously, you know, you having him, Lunacy as a co-driver, he's definitely stepped up to the plate for you. He's exceeded expectation. He exceeded my expectations for sure. That's definitely one thing.
Well, I when I was chatting to Chase earlier this year, actually identified him as someone we'd actually like to chase as a driver in terms of talent, just to develop him and whatnot. And certainly in the formulas, Lunacy proved to be quite the competitor. Susceptible to mistakes, but overall a very handy steerer to have, and very quick. And it's proving here in touring cars that he's a very capable steerer, and he's ironed out several of his mistakes. You know, that race just proves how good of a steerer he was, and you know, he kept his nose clean, and you know, he ended up coming away with the dub.
Now he can finally say he's Woonacy, because he's finally got the dub there rather than being Lunacy. So his name comes to tuition. But I think as well, you know, in main series it kind of is a bit of a benefit for you and him, because you know, you're both on controller. Where I think that's the difference between me and Matt is, you know, where he's a wheel and I'm a controller. So essentially, GT Sport, you know, the tunes kind of like they doubled over to an extent, but GT7, the whole controller versus wheel thing, it's just definitely, you know, completely different. You know, I can't use a match tune or anything like that. So yeah. I think, you know, I'm essentially tuning for myself, where, you know, match tuning for him and Brando and John. So, you know, it's as much as I'm, you know, with Matt, you know, I'm kind of by myself in a way, but you know, it's good learning curve and stuff like that.
Yeah, you certainly pick up a few different bits and pieces when you're tuning between a controller and a wheel. Sport was definitely not the not a good relationship between the wheel and the controller, but I think it's a little tiny bit better with the GT7, but certainly wouldn't rely on it anytime soon.
Yeah, well, GT7 is definitely, the handling model's a lot different to Sport, so I think that's where the main difference comes in. You know, I'm you know, getting my head around the car finally, and I think that's where, you know, everyone's a little bit surprised. I'm even surprised at myself on where my paces come from. But I'm just putting my head down and getting to it, and I know what I want at the end of the day, and I'm just gonna keep hunting that. But I know that I've got yourself, Spud, I've got everyone on my tail, so it's gonna be a long end of the season, I think.
Oh yeah, certainly. Still several rounds to go, mate. So
Yeah, definitely.
Anything's possible.
You know,
Wouldn't rule anything out.
Honestly, I'm not ruling anything out at this point in time. Everyone, they're all like, oh, you've got Matt, this and that. Yeah, I do, but at the same time, it's you've got Lunacy, we've all got co-drivers, and they're all doing their thing. So, but other than that, it's 3 rounds of what would be a 13 round season. So, it's those other 10 rounds that are definitely going to make it, but it's not over till it's over because, essentially because of the drop rounds, we can't wrap up a championship at any point until the last round. So I'm not ruling anything out. I know what you're capable of, and I think, everyone knows what everyone else is capable of, so we're just going to take it to each other. So it's definitely going to be a bit of an interesting one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but for saying that, thank you everyone for joining the TS2 coverage. It was good. But yeah, so thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Woodsy for joining me here. But everyone shall be back in just under an hour's time for the top 6 shootout of the Trackstars Touring Cars Sainte-Croix 1500. We do go live green flag racing lights out tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So if you can't catch the shootout tonight, catch us tomorrow, and we will be racing for what would be roughly about 8 hours or so. So it's going to be a
10 hours. It's a bit close to the 10 hours, mate.
Yeah, 10 hours. So it's going to be a very long day for us tomorrow. So until then, thank you all for joining. And if you can't catch us tonight, catch us tomorrow. Hit the like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining in. And until then, we shall see you in just under